Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time to be with me. So instead of making it really generic, let me start off by saying, hey, you, how are you doing? I am so glad that you are with me today. First of all, before we jump into the show too far, and I'm super excited about this message, I want to give a huge shout out to the very first person who responded back 8 episodes. I did in episode 100. I asked for I asked a request. I said if there is anybody out there who has listened to all 100 Life is a Marathon shows, please send me a message somehow. Send me a tweet, a contact form, or a Facebook message. And so I got a Facebook message just the other day from Francis Bertrand. Who He sent me a message on Facebook and he said, Bruce, I love your show. I have listened to all of them. And so, Francis, you are awesome, sir. Thank you so much for spending. Wow, yeah, that's a lot of hours. Okay, it's a lot of time to 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 have listened to 100 episodes. If you listen to them nonstop, 24 hours a day, it would take you 3.5 days to listen to all of the podcasts. And so now, actually, if you started at episode one and listened to one a day, it would take you 108 days to catch up with all of them. But so, Francis, thank you so much. And if anybody else out there has listened to all 100 or all 108 now, I would love to hear from you, and I will give you the same kind of shout out love that I just sent to Francis. Today's episode is sort of a continuation of the discussion that I had yesterday on my very first ever Life with My Lunch Coach webinar. We had a great time. It was from noon to 1 o'clock on the Eastern Time yesterday. There were 20 people registered for the event. And while not all of them were able to attend live, I just checked the statistics. Almost everybody was either live or they participated in watching the replay of it. So that it was just so much fun. And what I talked about was a topic that is interwoven into everything I do. I talked about the E+R equals O formula, which is basically the outcomes that we get in life, how we feel about ourselves, about the world. Are we angry? Are we bitter? Are we happy? Are we content? Are we loving? Are we gracious? Are we selfish? Whatever we're feeling about ourselves, do we have a victim mentality or do we have a victor's mentality? All of that is 100% the responsibility of you, regardless of the events that happen in your life. We cannot control the events, but we are 100% responsible for the way we respond to events. So if the economy is bad, why is it that some people are still just as happy? And they're just as happy maybe with less money. Um, but yet some people are still making lots of money when there's a recession. And likewise, when the economy is booming, there are going to be people who are just grumpy and upset and not getting ahead. So, it's all about the response. Some people were born with very severe physical limitations, yet they are some of the happiest people I know. Where people who are perfectly healthy on this planet are some of the unhappiest people I know. So it's all about what happens in between your ears. Everything is the result of your story, the story you tell yourself about other people, about what other people have done to you or said to you, or just about other events in your life. Two people can experience the very same event and respond to it very differently. One can let it destroy them or completely make them negative and pessimistic about life. Another person can say, well, you know what, it happened. I can't change it, but I can make the best of my life the way it is right now. So that's what we talked about. And the response that you are able to give in that type of situation, what I truly believe is the way you respond to events, how you respond to events, comes from this idea. What comes out of you is what's inside you. And so, if when something happens, if anger and rage and bitterness comes out of you, then that's what's inside you. Yet, if you are peaceful and you are content and you are happy with who you are and you love yourself, then that is very usually what is going to come out of you during stressful events. Okay? And so people ask the question at the end of the webinar, how do you exercise this response? How do you what I said during the webinar was that um, it's a muscle, just like anything else. It takes practice. And changing your thoughts is just like training for a marathon or just trying to lose weight. It takes daily intentional effort. And when you find yourself talking negatively to yourself or to other people, being critical of yourself or other people, then you have to catch yourself. You have to stop. You have to redirect. You have to always question, is this response the response that is most useful to me, first of all? So I want you to be completely selfish when it comes to analyzing your response. Is this the response that lifts me up, builds my self-esteem, creates or reflects from me the value that I hold of myself? So first of all, ask yourself that question. Is this a useful response? If it's not, then take a second, regroup, and try a different response. It really is that. And so what it all ultimately all boils down to is self-talk. And so that really is the meat of today's message. Your self-talk is what determines your success, really in any area of your life. Okay? So hear me out on this. The way you talk to yourself is what is going to determine your success in any area of your life. Okay? I love the quote from Henry Ford. Henry Ford said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. If you think you can do it, then you can do it. If you think you can't do it, there's no way you can." Okay? And so that more than anything else is what has been so transformative in my life, was embracing this idea that the only way I was going to be able to change my life and point it in the direction that I wanted it to go was to change the way I talked to myself. I was super critical. I couldn't do anything right. I was a victim. I told myself I would always be a victim. If something good happened in my life, I told myself not to celebrate it too much because it surely wasn't going to last. And guess what I usually got in my life? That's right. That's what I got in my life. So whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. And I don't want, yeah, I don't need to go on for hours about this. So I'm going to make this a fairly short topic, but I really want to drill this into you. It is all 100% about the way you talk to yourself, the story that you tell yourself. You've got to constantly be parenting yourself, first of all, right? I unfortunately, I do know some parents who are hypercritical of their children. They tell their children that they're not good enough or they never did anything right. And I've talked about this in many episodes. Focus on what we want, not on what we don't want. So when you ask a child to do something or to carry something, so the example that I often use is, if you've got this really priceless crystal vase, or punch bowl or whatever it is, very often we will hand it to the child and we'll say, "Here, put this on the table. Don't drop it. Whatever you do, don't drop it." Okay. Well, we immediately visualize what we are about to do. We visualize the instructions that have been given to us. And so when you tell a child, don't drop this, they visualize themselves dropping it, okay? And then all of their energy is focused on trying to not do that thing. Well, it's negative energy. So what you want to do is not even mention the outcome that you don't want. And so what you want to do is you hand it to the child and you say, "Here, honey, take this and set it gently on the table. I know you can do it. I love you. You're awesome." So, what's that going to do to the kid? So, first of all, I haven't mentioned that this is a very valuable, priceless item. So, I haven't created any kind of stress. I've affirmed the child. I've vocalized with my voice. I've demonstrated with my smile that I have confidence in the child's ability to carry the punch bowl over to the table and set it down gently. That's what I focused on. So if we can do that with our children, why is it so hard for us to do it with ourselves? We are so critical of ourselves. I've often used the phrase that, if we talked to our friends the way we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't have any friends. Okay? I'm not going to hang around you if you're constantly criticizing me and telling me I'm not good enough. I didn't do this right. I didn't do that right. I'm not good looking. You're out of shape. You're overweight. Nobody finds you attractive. If you said those things to me, that'd be the last time we'd hang out together. Okay? Yet, those are the very things that we say to ourselves every single day. So stop it. Do it. Just stop talking to yourself that way. Exercise positive self-talk. Positive self-talk. Okay? So, the show is called Life is a Marathon. And while I don't dwell on marathon running, there are principles about life that I learned as a result of marathon training. And I have often said, and there are world-class marathon runners who agree with me, running a marathon is, I don't know the exact statistics, okay? It's going to be different for different people. But for me, I honestly believe that running a marathon is 90% mental. I've got this great t-shirt. The t-shirt says, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." I bought it from my buddy JB Glossinger. He's the head of morningcoach.com. And many of you ask, you use me as your mentor and your life coach. And many of you ask, well, Bruce, who do you listen to for motivation? JB Glossinger at morningcoach.com is one of my daily mentors. I listen to his show every single day. So if you get a chance, check out JB Glossinger on Twitter. He's at Morning Coach. Tell him Bruce sent you. Tell him Bruce says hi and I love you, JB. So I don't know if JB even listens to the show, but there's a shout out to JB Glossinger at Morning Coach. But anyway, I've got this shirt that I bought from JB. It was a fundraising thing he was doing. It says, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." I disagree with the t-shirt. I really do. I agree with the principle. I disagree with the numbers. I think if you believe you can, you are so much more than halfway. I think you're 90% there. It's certainly 75%, right? Because in training for a marathon, first of all, 26.2 miles is a long way to run. What you have got to control more than your body. Now, certainly you have to build up the physical endurance to run that far, but you cannot build up the physical endurance to run that far if you don't develop the mental endurance to run that far. You see, your feet will not go one step farther than your brain tells them to go. Okay? But your feet will go a whole lot farther than your feet tell you they want to go if the brain tells them they can and tells them why they can and why it's important. So it all comes down to why. But in training for a marathon, in running a marathon, the number one thing you have to control is your self-talk. every single mile, you've got to remind yourself that you can do it, that this is fun, that it is worth it, and that you can go the distance. Because if you're running a marathon, and this is what happens when you hit the wall, for most people it's around mile 20, mile 21. And while there is a physical wall, mostly what it is, it's a mental wall. That's where the brain gets really, really tired and the self-talk starts to kick in. And the second your brain tells you, you can't finish this, Bruce, that's when the body just shuts down and it says, you're right, we're done. We can't finish this. But if your brain keeps saying, you know what, you can do this, we're going to go the distance even if we have to walk. That's what happened to me 3 weeks ago in the Boston Marathon. I got 23 miles into it. I was running ahead of my pace. I was feeling awesome. 23 miles into it, I cramped. My right calf said, I want to quit. We're done, Bruce. I want to stop. My brain said, no, calf, we're going the distance. We came to Boston to run this marathon. We are running the marathon. I know you hurt. I know you're tired, but it's just 3 more miles. We're going to walk a little bit, but we are going to finish this marathon. So it's all about self-talk. Everything that you do is self-talk. Your ability to endure, to go the distance in anything, whether it's trying to achieve your dream, whether it's trying to lose weight, whether it's trying to run for a marathon, your ability to endure is directly related to the clarity of your vision for why you're doing it. And if you know why you're doing something and you love the reason why you're doing something, then it makes it so much easier to do it because you're constantly talking to yourself. You're affirming yourself. And so I'm going to stick with the sports metaphor here again. I have a great number of friends who love to participate in 5Ks or 10Ks, and I've got a bunch of friends who just are walkers. They're not in it to compete or to win or to place high in their age group or whatever. So they show up for a 10K and they finish at the back of the pack. I mean, we're talking really slow relative to the people who won, the 10K, okay? But these people, after the race, they go out and celebrate their victories. They're giving themselves high fives. They go to a restaurant and have lunch or dinner or, whatever it is, but they celebrate it. They're proud of themselves and their victories, and they tell themselves how awesome they are. And I love hanging out with those people. Yet, I also have some friends who are phenomenally gifted runners, and they finish in the top of the pack. 10Ks are extremely competitive, and I've got a friend who usually finishes somewhere in the top 10. Certainly number 1 or number 2 in his age group if he doesn't win the 10K altogether. But if he doesn't win, then he is no fun to be around. And even when he does win, he's often not fun to be around because all he talks about is disappointment. Well, I could have done better. At mile 5, I didn't drink when I should have drank, or I took a drink and I shouldn't have, and constantly criticizing. And so for these people who, by all of my standards, my goodness, if I could run as fast as these guys, I would be jumping up and down with joy. Yet for them, I believe that somewhere along the line, somebody, probably a parent, told them they'd never be good enough. Maybe it was a coach who said, you'll never amount to anything. And they believed it. And that was the story that they told. And so their self-talk is all around this fact that you will never, ever be good enough. And so they became overachievers. And so by the world's standard, they might be considered success. And this is why I've said that self-talk determines your success. I know many wealthy people. I know many very, very gifted athletes who are successful athletes by certainly by my standards and by they are well above the majority of those people who participate in the races. So we would call them successful. But because for them it's never good enough, it doesn't matter how much money they make. It doesn't matter how fast they run. There will always have been a reason that they didn't run faster. There will always have been a reason that they didn't make more money or achieve some higher levels of success. Where my friends who finish at the back of the pack, they're the successful ones. It's all about self-talk. It's all about the story that you tell yourself. So I love my friend Jamie Smart, who wrote a book called Clarity. And he's been on my podcast before, and we had a great conversation about this. And in his book, Clarity, he talks about this self-talk issue a bit. And I love the phrase that he used. And it's so simple, okay? So if being hard on yourself was going to work, it would have worked by now, right? I'm 51 years old. Okay. Now, fortunately, a number of years ago, I stopped being hard on myself. So I started that before I met Jamie, but I love that phrase. So regardless of how old you are, if being hard on yourself, if being critical of yourself, if thinking that what you've done is never good enough and you've got to try harder and harder, if that kind of self-talk was going to work, it would have worked by now. So let's try something different. Try affirming yourself. Try praising yourself. Try saying, great job. Try changing to, and I'm not saying settle for, for doing half a job. You know when you're doing your best, and you're the only one who can do that. So if you really know you haven't given it your all, then give it your all next time. But don't beat yourself up. Don't be super critical of yourself. Don't be like the parent who says, here, take this over there, but don't drop that. Okay? Say, here, carry this. Set it on the table gently. You're awesome. I believe in you. I love you. Say that to yourself. Affirm your life. Affirm who you are. I am a big believer, and so I don't like these to be sales pitchy, but here's a fact, okay? If you have a hard time with positive self-talk, I made a recording for the purpose of helping you, for coaching you. It's just called Bruce Van Horn. It's called Affirmations by Bruce Van Horn. It's a 12-minute long recording. There are 4 different versions of it. There's a plain one with just my voice talking in affirmations and positive statements about you. So you put it on your iPhone or your Android, whatever your device is, and you put it in your earbuds, and I just talk to you about how awesome you are. So some of the different versions have background music, and so check it out, brucevanhorn.com/affirmations. It's it's less than $5. So you at brucevanhorn.com/affirmations, you can listen to a sample of it, and you can buy it if you want to. So lots of people who were in the webinar yesterday, I mentioned it there too, because it was apropos to what we were talking about. And many of the people who were in the webinar have already bought it and have listened to it and got in the chat room and talked about how great it was and how much it had changed their life. And that's why I do this. I love being a coach. I love helping people. I want you to change your life just as much as I have changed my life. I want all of us to live awesome lives because we are awesome people. We are miraculous. None of us likes to hear our own children talk badly about themselves. So when you talk badly about yourself, it grieves your creator, okay? Self-talk. Redefine success, okay? Redefine success. Don't let it be on somebody else's standard. It's only on your standard. But you are successful. to the extent that you believe you are. And if you believe that you can have any level of success in your life, then you can. Henry Ford was right. If you think that you'll never be good enough, then you won't be. Okay? Self-talk determines your success. And I share this with you for one reason and one reason only. It's because I love you. Life is a marathon, so let's train for it.